Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Kit Pietrantonio, and with me.
Dr. Ryan McDermott.
And now it is time to do the Research Roundup. Research Roundup.
The first study is called Walking on Eggshells. It's a qualitative examination of men's experiences of intimate partner violence. So basically this researcher, Elizabeth Bates, from the University of Cumbria in the United Kingdom, what she did is she interviewed male survivors of intimate partner violence. Majority of them were heterosexual, so these were women abusers that they were reporting on. And she just was looking for themes about those experiences. So three themes that really stick out to me, Kip: coercion, control, physical aggression, and psychological aggression. The reason they stick out to me is they're very similar to what we see when women report about the abuse they've experienced.
Right. And I think that's pretty interesting because when we think about men being like abused by women, I think what most people picture is like somebody being slapped in public or something like that, but not necessarily like emotional, like the coercion thing. You know, I think of clients I've worked with where somebody has been like made to feel excessively guilty for like wanting to go out with friends or wanting to, just go to work or like not coming home from work. And so those are kind of the examples that I think of. How about you?
Exactly. I think of like almost like stereotype things I've seen in movies.
Yeah.
And one thing I always noticed in those movies is that the audience members usually laugh. Like, for instance, a woman hits a man with a frying pan or something, and people laugh about it. But if it were switched around, if it was a man hitting a woman, it wouldn't be that funny, of course. But I was struck by the similarities and the this paper has a number of descriptions of what happened, and they sound very similar to not only my own clinical experience working with both men and women who have been in abusive relationships, but they sound really similar to like what women typically report in the research.
Right. So kind of overall of the study is interviewed these men who were in abusive relationships. Those men reported very similar themes to what women experience in a abusive relationship. Pretty interesting study. If you want to, I'll have it right below here. Go ahead and check it out. What do we got next, Ryan?
All right, so the next one is Adonis on the Apps, Online Objectification, Self-Esteem, and Sexual Minority Men. The lead author on this is Aaron Breslow at the Department of Counseling and Clinical Psychology at, this time is Columbia. But one of our old friends, Mike Parent, is on here from our division. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to highlight the work he's doing and them together. So what they did is they were looking at these dating apps like Grindr, Tinder, things like that, but they were looking at them in sexual minority men and particularly trying to say, how does looking at these apps, using these apps, influence the users' perspectives of themselves, in particular their self-esteem, their body image. They're using what's this theory called self-objectification theory, which basically just means the more I kind of sexualize myself, the more that leads to body dissatisfaction over time because I kind of start surveilling my body and always being really careful to.
And I would say it's not just sexualizing yourself; it's literally objectifying yourself. So it's like I am as valuable as my six packs look good.
Oh, that's a good way. Yeah, that's a really good point.
So there's no longer the internal value to yourself; it's purely your body.
Right. Well, researchers have found support for this theory in a lot of different populations. This, as far as I can tell here, is the first one to look at it in this population with this kind of technology in terms of these apps. And what they found is that there was support for this theory, that the more you're using these apps, the more ultimately your self-esteem was decreased in terms of your body self-esteem. And that this was explained by kind of these theoretical processes that we would expect from self-objectification theory. But what's interesting, Kip, is that they didn't find that the amount that you used one particular app mattered. What really mattered was the fact that you were using multiple apps. So the more apps you use, the more likely this effect happened. That's kind of interesting.
So it's essentially like the more platforms that you're on, the more likely you are to objectify yourself, which can lead to things like body dysmorphia, eating disorders, all those kinds of things. Yeah, that's interesting that if you're just like on Grindr every single day, that wouldn't be as impactful. Maybe it's just if you're on Grindr and you're on, Hinge and you're on Tinder and you're on Bumble, you're like being objectified in so many different domains, I guess. Maybe
Yeah,
that's what kind
yeah.
of does the trick. I'm not really sure. That'd be a great, like, I'd love to ask Mike why that kind of happens. So,
Yeah, and I'd also be curious if it happens in heterosexual dating apps as well. In theory, it could, right? Because it's just any
mhm.
kind of objectification. But
Well, I know
also,
there's I know
yeah,
there's a lot of research on like body image, eating disorders with like Facebook and Instagram that has pretty much come out with exactly what you would think is the more
yeah,
people are getting those kind of instant self-esteem boosts
yeah,
from getting likes and everything, the more likely they are to become depressed, not like their body, feel like they have to maintaining this kind of like false image. So,
right, right. That makes total sense. One of my students did a content analysis a long time ago of there was I was Out Proud or something like that magazine, or Pride magazine. I forget the name of it. It was a long time
mhm,
ago. But they found that the number of men who are like shirtless and just like basically these Adonises, as
mhm,
the title implies, they were everywhere. Including my favorite one was this dentist, and it was just the dentist was not wearing a shirt and he had like ripped abs, and he's like,
mhm.
"Come on down to so and so, I'll clean your teeth," or whatever.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So maybe there's also something going on in that particular culture,
Yeah, and
or subculture.
an over objectification and sexualization for sure. So, all right, so that's the end of research roundup. Research roundup. Yeehaw! I hope you
Yeehaw!
enjoyed the episode. Shout out to the wonderful authors who put in a lot of work to get those studies done. Don't know if everybody understands the amount of work it takes to get a study done, but it's usually about 1 to 2 years worth of work
Right.
to get something out there. So great job to everybody. That's the end of our show for today. My name is Dr. Kip Petrantonio, and with me,
Dr. Ryan McDermott.
all right. Peace out, everybody.
Audio Jungle.